Hello, my name's Greg Egan, and today I'm just going to talk about 6 psychological impacts of being in a relationship with a narcissist. And of course, there's probably many more, but I'm just giving 6 examples in this particular case. Now, being in a relationship with a narcissist can have a significant psychological impact on the individual involved. Narcissists are characterized by an excessive sense of self-importance, a need for admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. And I've done previous videos on this, which go into more detail. And they can often manipulate and exploit their partners for personal gain, cause emotional and psychological harm, as well as harm in other ways, both physical and also financial at times. And here are some common psychological impacts on being in a relationship with a narcissist. So, number 1, narcissists frequently belittle and criticize their partners, making them feel unworthy and inadequate. Over time, this can erode the individual's self-esteem, leading to self-doubt, negative self-image. They start to feel like crap about themselves, to be honest. For example, my ex-wife used to constantly tell me there was men more richer than me and better looking than me, constantly chasing her, and that she could have anyone that she wanted. I was constantly told I was ugly and that no woman would want me, but for her. And would tell me that I should be happy that she wanted me, because she was so beautiful and I was not. I did believe that for a while. My sense of self-image of myself was quite bad during the beginning of the relationship, because there was constant put downs. There was constant negative comments, whether it be the way I dealt with situations, whether it be the way I dressed, the way I looked, the way I interacted in social gatherings, the kind of friends and family I had around me. Everything was attacked. And my whole sense of self-worth became quite low during the relationship. Emotional abuse. Now, narcissists employ emotional manipulation tactics, such as gaslighting, where they distort reality and make their partner question their own perceptions and sanity. This emotional abuse can result in anxiety, depression, and a sense of powerlessness. For example, I was constantly told I had to prove my love to her through various actions. And if I did not do them, that was proving that I did not love her enough, and as such was not worthy of her. I would be psychologically abused on a regular basis, with constant threats to leave me if I did not do this or do that. Gaslighting was a regular thing for a period. And I suffered from levels of depression, anxiety, thoughts of self-harm, feelings of worthlessness, and constantly felt like I was walking on eggshells in the relationship. And till this day, I still have impacts from the trauma, and I get triggered from time to time. 3, isolation. Narcissists often isolate their partners from friends and family, seeking to control and dominate their lives. This isolation can lead to feelings of loneliness, social withdrawal, and loss of your support systems. For example, in the beginning of the relationship, my ex-wife gradually cut off my friend networks, made me attend social events only she approved, and banned me from seeing my best friends in the relationship, and isolated me from my daughter, my family during the relationship. There was periods there where I felt really alone and had to, in secret, seek out contact with family and friends for support at times. I was also told what I could and could not talk about at social events. And if I went outside this narrative, it normally resulted in verbal abuse after leaving these events. And so what happens over time is that you get too scared to seek out these social networks, or go catch up with friends, or go catch up with family, because you're scared you're going to get abused You're scared you're going to get attacked in some form or another. And just to keep the peace, you stay isolated and you stay codependent within that relationship. And that's where I come to the next point, codependency. They want you to be dependent on them. Narcissists thrive on having others cater to their needs, and they often manipulate their partners in becoming dependent on them. And part of that comes from socially isolating you, because if you have no family or friends, that's good for them, because then they're in control, because they make you feel like if you lose them, you have no one. That's the whole goal. This codependent dynamic can make it difficult for an individual to assert their needs and establish healthy boundaries, or even sometimes leave the abusive relationship. For example, in my relationship, it was all about my ex-wife, her image, meeting her needs, and constantly made me feel that I would never do better than her. If I tried to assert my needs, it usually resulted in some sort of verbal abuse, silent treatment, or some other form of punishment or threat of her leaving me. And when your partner socially isolates you and controls who you can and can't see, as I said before, it increases the codependency. They want you to be vulnerable, because when you're vulnerable, you are easy to control. And so if you're in a relationship with someone you think is a narcissist, then keep your social network strong. Stay connected with family, stay connected with friends, because you're going to need it. Because when you're alone, it can lead to depression. It can lead to anxiety. It can lead to increased stress, feeling like you have no one around you to support you, or no one around you that you can talk to. And this comes to the fifth part, complex trauma. Prolonged exposure to a narcissistic abuse can result in complex trauma, which encompasses a range of psychological and emotional symptoms, which I'm not going to go into all of them today. But some of them could include hypervigilance, flashbacks, difficulty trusting others, emotional deregulation, and a heightened fear response. Like I was talking about before, walking on eggshells. For example, after separation, I was getting triggered easily, found it hard to trust people, was scared of letting anyone in emotionally, and would have nightmares and flashbacks, and had to attend victims of crime counselling to help me heal post-separation. I always felt like I was walking on eggshells with my ex-wife, in a constant state of wondering what mood she would be in today, and wondering if I would get screamed at for one reason or another, or attacked for something that I was being blamed for, that I didn't even know I did sometimes, because I didn't do them. It was just like the gaslighting thing that occurs. Even in my current relationship with this healthy and positive one, I feel the trauma triggers come from the past relationship from time to time in the current relationship. It's just that I'm lucky that I am trained in counselling, and that I can pick up when I'm triggered. I can slow myself down. I can reframe the thinking. I can understand that, no, it's not a real threat in the current relationship. It's just a perceived threat and a reminder of past triggers that are raising their ugly head in the current relationship. And that's where, after leaving a narcissist, for example, you want to take time to heal. You want to take time to seek professional help, because you're going to need it. 6, and this is another thing, you often get this sense of self-blame and guilt, because narcissists are skilled at deflecting blame onto their partners, making them feel responsible for all the relationship problems. This can lead to a persistent sense of guilt, self-blame, and even when the individual's not at fault. I remembered once I attended relationship counselling with my ex, and every session was about her telling the relationship counsellor to fix me, that I was the problem. And even when the counsellor tried to challenge her, she deflected the counsellor's statements and kept turning it back onto, you need to fix him. He is the problem. That's what narcissists want you to feel like. They want you to feel like you are the problem. And for example, everything and anything that could go wrong in the relationship was my fault. When I finally started standing up to her at the end of the relationship. And especially when I told her she had been abusive all through the relationship and that it was not healthy for me. Another thing they sometimes do, they want to turn it back on you. So shortly after that, she was calling domestic violence services, making false claims, and wrote some really horrible allegations in family court documents of things that actually never happened. And my response when I first read that, because I was already traumatized after I left the relationship, and when I read this, I went, oh my God, what sort of person was I actually in a relationship with? I literally felt physically sick, like I was going to throw up. And all these psychological distress things came back into my head. I actually feared for my safety and my well-being after that, because I never knew whether if I turned up to a place, she could make some false allegations against me, have me locked up for something I haven't done. That was my constant fear. And before I had left, she had made that threat. She had made it in front of my parents that if I ever tried to leave her, that she would do everything in her power to destroy me. And when I read that statement and what she had written in the court reports in the family court, I went, oh my God, she was serious. A narcissist will do whatever they can to destroy their ex-partners if they try to leave. Because if you're not meeting their needs, you're their enemy. That's another thing to remember. And they will go after you. This is where you have to take care. And that being said, I did during the relationship have these feelings of guilt. I did have these feelings of self-blame. I was starting to seriously blame myself for things going wrong in the relationship. I was starting to seriously think that I was in the wrong all the time. I started to feel like I could not do anything right, because that's what they want to make you feel like. They want to keep you in that constant vulnerable state, because if you're in that vulnerable state, you're easier to manipulate. You're easier to control. And when you're questioning your own sanity all the time, you don't know where to turn sometimes, and you don't know what to believe. I think my only saving grace was I did keep journal notes where I'd occasionally send emails to myself. I would talk openly to my family and friends, even when I had to do it in secret because I was banned for periods of time for seeing my friends, because they saw the abuse that was going on. They saw what I was going through, and they saw the damage it was doing to me and the depressive thoughts I was having, the anxiety responses I was having. And all they wanted to do was protect me. But they were seen as a threat to her because they were starting to try and empower me and help me build my strength. And she discouraged me from seeing my family because my family could see what she was doing as well. And a narcissist does not like to be challenged. So that's another thing. So in conclusion, other things that can happen after leaving, after years of being in a relationship with a narcissist, apart from complex trauma that you can end up with, and also all sorts of other psychological symptoms, you may even end up with things like post-traumatic stress disorder in the most severe cases. The trauma experienced in a relationship with a narcissist can lead to and develop PTSD symptoms, which may be intrusive thoughts, nightmares, emotional detachment, and avoidance of triggers associated with the abusive relationship. And what I mean by trigger avoidance, that if you get triggered because of the relationship, about being around people, you may just avoid relationships altogether, because the idea of being in a relationship scares the living crap out of you, and that it makes you feel uncomfortable because every time something happens, you get re-triggered, and you don't want to be re-triggered, so you're avoiding these triggers. And you're scared you're going to enter another abusive relationship. So it's important to note that every individual is unique, and the psychological impacts of having been in a relationship with a narcissist can vary. If you suspect you are in a relationship with a narcissist or have recently left one, seeking support from a therapist or a counsellor experienced in trauma and abusive relationships can be beneficial in understanding and addressing the psychological effects. And even being trained myself, I found attending victims of crime counselling in New South Wales, Australia, was very helpful to me to see an outsider's perspective that was independent and not my family, not my friends, helped me work through some of that trauma. And if I hadn't spent that time working through that trauma with another counsellor, I may not be in the healthy relationship and happy relationship I am in now. So I encourage you, if you are in an abusive relationship or you're in a relationship with someone you suspect to be a narcissist, start reading up on what is a narcissist. Start trying to understand what's happening to you around your stress responses, around your anxiety, around your feelings of depression. Try to understand some of the games that they actually play so that you can start to heal and build that resilience. So I encourage you, please seek help. Please seek your friends, your family, and whatever other networks you have around you, such as services in your area. Anyway, thank you for listening. And if you like these sort of videos, hit like, please subscribe. And if you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And if you're in Australia, for example, there is hotlines out there like 1-800-RESPECT and Mensline where you can seek some help. Or you can go to your local GP and get a referral under a mental health care plan to actually seek counselling. So please seek help if you are feeling any symptoms of depression, anxiety, and some of the things I've pointed out here within this video. Thank you.